Hello everyone, my name is Kurtz.
And I'm Run Bam Run Faster.
But that's a little long, so I just call him Bam. And this is Game Interrogators.
Now you're all probably wondering, Bam, what is a game interrogator? Do you beat up games for a living? Does the mob pay you to break games' kneecaps if they don't pay protection money? Of course not. Don't be an idiot. Games can't take out loans.
The act of interrogating in this context actually has to do with literary interrogation, a field that both Bam and I specialize in.
That still actually doesn't explain what that means.
It mostly has to do with looking at a piece of literature and trying to pick out its themes, what it's trying to do with those themes, and how it comes to a conclusion, if it reaches one at all.
All those things you didn't pay attention to in high school English. You know, themes. But wait, come back. We're talking about video games.
But specifically, we're applying all those things to video games, taking a long, hard look at their plots, narratives, and mechanics, and trying to derive real meaning out of them.
Long, hard plots.
45 seconds in, and we're already out with the first dick joke.
But then the question becomes, how does that even work? Books are books, games are games, and those things are totally different. You don't read games unless you're playing a visual novel or a Final Fantasy game or something boring like that. No one's ever assigned a gaming class for one, or made you play one for credit, or if they did, that sounds like a pretty cool class, and where can I sign up? In truth, though, they're a lot closer than you might think. You just have to travel down the lineage a bit.
Lineage? What, is there some kind of royal family of literature I should know about? Well, speak up, you limey royalists! Was the Revolutionary War for nothing?
So, calm down, take a lithium, let me finish. So you have books, right?
Right.
And books aren't too far off from comic books. They just tell their story in a different way, with pictures.
Right.
So what does this add to the storytelling?
Well, instead of receiving the story one detail at a time, comics can present many details simultaneously, freeing up the pacing tremendously and creating a narrative where details can be experienced in different orders. It adds an element of eye play. The artist has to direct the reader's eyes to where the writer wants them to go.
And then you have film, which relies even more heavily on visual portrayal, such as framing and lighting, as well as audio design and acting. Something which books or comics don't have access to, being, well, books. Going even further than that, we have games, which have just about everything that these other mediums have, with the added element of interactivity, making them not only just as valid for literary analysis, but
gives them their own angle, unique to them.
Don't ever cut me off again, or I will cut you right back.
Pretending that didn't happen, though, to facilitate our need for a straw man, I'm going to say that I only play games because they're fun, not any of this literature higgledy-piggledy.
Well, Kurtz, that's structurally convenient to the purposes of this video, because that's where I need to start. What makes games fun in the first place, namely, their design.
I'll go with it.
In order to understand how we treat games as literature, first we need to explain to our dear, underprivileged listeners how the design of games influences how good and or god-awful they are. So this introductory episode, all about game design, is going to be broken down into 3 parts. How design teaches, how design corrects, and how design comments.
Now, hold on. I'm up with all the hip trends all these kids are into. I've played the Marios, and the Sonics, and the Final Zeldas, and those games haven't taught me anything besides food on the ground is delicious and nutritious, and if they look palette-swapped, kill them.
Who taught you how to play Mario?
Mostly I just died over and over until I stopped doing it as much. I tend to prefer the brute force attempt at Mario.
No one taught you. Because you know who taught you? The game.
I don't think dying over and over counts as teaching. At no point in my educational career was falling to my death on the rubric.
But you did learn to play it, didn't you?
Yeah.
Then the game taught you something. It taught you how not to die and how to move forward through the game. In fact, I assert that the original Super Mario Bros. Taught you everything you need to know to play it. On the first screen.
Nonsense. They had a big manual and you had to read it, and sometimes it was in Japanese, and if you couldn't understand it, you just had to look at the pictures and figure it out.
I nonsense your nonsense. Further nonsense. Picture the first screen of Super Mario Bros. In your mind. For those of you without good imaginations, I only look down on you a little bit, but here's a visual aid. What do you see?
I see nothing. Mostly nothing. There's Mario, and there's some clouds that are also bushes, but those are way on the right side. Kind of makes me want to go over there because that's literally the only thing happening here.
And the order you saw those is important. You noticed Mario first and the stuff on the right side last, and this is the game's first 2 lessons to you. First, they show you where you are. You define your world by your relative location, so that's the first thing the design shows you. Hence putting you on the left side, since we started reading on the left. After that, you're drawn to the right side because that's the way Mario's facing, and also because... look at it, there's nothing there.
So I'm moving right. Fine. That's not exactly a complex lesson, and not even close to everything a person needs to play even a relatively simple game like Super Mario Bros.
Absolutely correct. It's not a complicated lesson, which is why they're only the foundational instruction for what will in the next, 4 seconds or so become much more complicated. Because what happens when you go right?
A racial slur suddenly appears.
Goombas, that's right. And what do you do to Goombas?
Stomp on it. Stomp right in their stupid heads.
Right! Fuck you, Italian people!
Whoa.
Sorry. Got a little too real there. Backing up.
Which you can't do in Mario.
You see the Goombas, and there being only 2 non-movement buttons on the controller, you press A and B probably at the same time because video games are hard. After discovering you can jump and dispatching the Goomba, most players seek to further explore their newfound jumping powers. However, Nintendo hasn't given the player much to explore, drawing the player's curious eyes to the only new things on the screen. The blocks.
So maybe I try to jump on top of the blocks, and I try to reach them, but don't quite make it, and...
It's true. This first encounter teaches you a further 2 lessons. 1, there are bad guys that present timed decisions. You jump on their heads. And 2, there are blocks you can hit with your own, apparently much less fragile head, and they do stuff. But wait, what did that block do?
Nothing. It just moves and makes a sound. You have to get to the super shroom.
What? You don't know that yet. What do you see?
Interrupting. But I see some blocks, one of which has a question mark on it, making me want to mess with it first, because different things should always be messed with. Isn't that right, high school?
And doing just that brings you to the last 2 lessons Super Mario Bros. Has to teach you. The first being that sometimes blocks have power-ups, and they are pretty cool. The second lesson comes in the direction the power-up moves in. Right. Also known as the direction the Goomba came from, which is the last lesson. In order to complete the game, you need to pursue the rewards to the right, even at the risk of danger. This system of risk versus reward is a principal concept, not only in this Mario game, but future titles, as the designers will continually tempt you forward into more and more dangerous situations with hints of victory and achievement.
Okay, that straw man we set up earlier, his mind is a little blown. I'd say fractionally blown. Like grenade blown, but not quite bunker buster blown.
That's not even the best part. You may have noticed that all of these lessons came in 2s. Here's Mario. He goes right. There are enemies to the right. Here are some blocks. Blocks contain power-ups, but go to the right, which is dangerous. Each of these lessons came in 2s, because each second lesson leads to the next set. Right to Goombas, blocks to power-ups, power-ups to full knowledge, and that's not even the best part of the best part.
Now this is just getting recursive.
Exactly right. These lessons are recursive, because one of the first lessons you learn is, go right, which mirrors the last lesson, go right. That is where the good stuff are. The design of Super Mario Bros. Teaches you how to play the game. In a sense, the design tutorializes better than any tutorial stage, and it does it in less than 5 seconds.
Okay, so I've learned more about Mario than I ever really cared to know. What does this have to do with literary analysis?
Carts. Horses. Getting there. Shut up. Before getting to proper literature, we have to complicate our design discussion, but not too complicated, and we aren't there quite yet. Our second stop on the map to literary analysis of games is how design can correct the player and change their way of thinking. To an extent, this is one of the more transparent aspects of game design. Anyone who's played online has seen anti-griefing measures and balance patches. You want to shoot your friends in the big FPS games? Too bad, you can't. Now stop griefing and shoot the other team. The game I want to discuss is Portal. You've played Portal, right, Kurtz?
The cake is a
Shut
lie!
up! That joke hasn't been funny since high school. That aside, have you run through the developer commentary for the game?
No, I haven't. But did you want to use that as a transition?
No! Maybe. Yes. Transitional devices be damned! If you have listened to the developer's commentary, then you would have known that one of the major design challenges that Valve faced early on in level development is that they had accidentally implanted the idea that there was one portal for going in and one for going out. Not that they went both ways. As you can imagine, this complicated late-game puzzle design which required players to go in and out of portals multiple times.
Nonsense. You open a portal, walk into it, transmogrify your fourth-dimensional matter into energy, funnel it through a wormhole, then get quantumly reconstructed on the other side, and vice versa. And then to go backward, you quantumly deconstruct and, well,
Uh-huh.
Look, people go in, people come out. Why try to explain that?
The designers began warming up to the idea in Test Chamber 1, which required players to go through no fewer than 5 portals in both directions. The problem still persisted, though, because cutting out all the middle bits, the solution still had players starting in the orange portal and out the blue portal. Ultimately, their solution was in Test Chamber 3, which you may recall as being the one with a small, intraversible pit separating you from the exit. The orange portal started on the other side, which meant the player had to enter the blue portal to exit out the orange, backwards from what they'd been doing so far. This was complemented by having you re-reverse the order you went through the portals to ultimately get to the exit. In order to solve the puzzle, the test chamber called on the player to do what is, for a lot of people, the first reflex when a solution is unclear. Flip it over and try again.
There's a USB joke in here somewhere.
Regardless, this is an example of how design can correct us and change the way we think about things. Portal uses design to change how the player thinks about portal polarity, and that's no mean feat. Once a player decides that something works in a particular way, it is a massive uphill battle to change that perception. Anytime you've played a game where something didn't seem to work like you thought it should, that's an example of design failing to convey, as discussing in Mario, and failing to correct. And that's Portal.
So, are we talking about literature yet?
Yes, we are, because the last part of this episode is how design can comment.
Not only can games teach, but they can talk back. Let me ask you, people of YouTube, who is playing who?
Whom? We're definitely about to get a little meta here, or literary, as it is less popularly known.
In Soviet Russia, game plays you?
Oh, Kurtz, you're like an Apple II. Useless for the modern world, but handy for your dated references. To facilitate discussion on this portion of the video, we'll be using 2 games, One Chance and the Stanley Parable.
One Chance, which, by the way, is free on Newgrounds to play right now, gives you the standard interaction of an adventure game with a catch. You only have one chance to make those decisions.
While it is technically possible to root through your back end and reset the game, One Chance begins and ends on this notion that the cardinal rule of games, that you can progress through trial and error, has been removed in an apparent attempt to reflect the tension and ambiguity of real-life decisions.
What results is a story that the player has made for themselves that they're also made to live with and justify after the fact, which is, for a lot of people, a little too close to home to be entirely comfortable.
And then we have the Stanley Parable.
Parable, a story with a moral lesson. We're in familiar territory again.
As both a game and a piece of literature, the Stanley Parable is unusual. I won't be spoiling too much of it as we have a full episode planned, more on that later, but suffice to say for now that the game centers on a single choice. Left or right? The narrator tells you to go left, but he does this before you make your choice, allowing you to defy him and go right. This one choice can lead to as many as 15 and a half different endings, all of which range from glib to terrifyingly introspective. The big question that the Stanley Parable raises, however, is about the authenticity of that choice. If I have a map of all 15 endings,
Which he does.
are all those choices still significant? Are they even choices anymore?
Whoa.
What makes the Stanley Parable an interesting work, one that we think will prove influential as more people start to do what we do, is that the question not only applies to it specifically, but also any game with a choice-based element to it, major or minor. The Stanley Parable asks players and other developers serious questions about the illusory nature of choice in games and whether or not the quest for meaningful choice is truly valid.
We would go deeper, but that would require a more detailed discussion of the plot, and as it's such a compact game, it's hard to talk about a little bit without spoiling the whole thing. That's more suited to a whole episode. So, we leave you with this challenge.
This show will discuss 6 games over the coming weeks and months, and we'll save the Stanley Parable for last, so you have until then to play it. It takes about 2 hours to work through all the endings, it's $15 on Steam, and we have it linked below us in the description, so go out and enrich yourself. We'll see you back here in the next episode, where we'll be discussing Bastion. Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video.
If you'd like to see more shenanigans, we do all kinds of Let's Plays as well, right here on the channel.
Click the box on the screen to watch Kurt and I play Rock of Ages, a tower defense, ball-rolling physics attack simulator.
It's a pretty great game. Alternatively, we've got a series going around right now where we are toddling through Mass Effect with fellow game interrogator Music Combat.
Don't forget to check out the description for the link to the Stanley Parable, and hey, why not also check out our Facebook and Twitter, and why not also throw down a subscription as well?
See you guys next time.